Hello everyone, these are going to be your messages for June 2019. My name is Joanna the Medium. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. I hope you like what you find here. I am not a traditional tarot reader. I guess I would say I'm an intuitive psychic, even though I hate that word. So majority of my messages comes through intuition, and you'll sometimes hear me talking to spirit out loud. Point is, if you are looking for a traditional tarot reader, that's not me. So this is obviously general. If these messages don't make sense to you, do listen to them later. They seem to make a lot of sense down the road for many, many, many people. And first and foremost, thank you so much for coming back. And for those of you, again, who are new, thank you for taking the chance. My aim is always to give you something to chew on, to think about. My aim is not to make you believe anything or change something inside in you. You know what my gift is? Not my gift, my passion is, aside from empowering. I actually got this morning in my meditation. I just kind of went, yes, that's exactly it. I was being shown that I get information. It's almost like a roadmap, and I give it to you. And once you have a roadmap, you know where you're going. So whatever that means to you, that was obviously a metaphor. My aim is to give you a roadmap, but it is up to you to take it. It's up to you to look at it and see if you like it. And then consider consider looking at the map and seeing where it leads you. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's absolutely up to you what you decide. And nobody's right or wrong. This is just my perspective from spirit. And if things have not been working for you for a while, trying a different perspective sometimes can usher brand new, beautiful experiences. So do know that this is general though, so it may not apply to everyone. Of course, for private information or private sessions with me, that information is always down below. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I want to wish you best of luck in the month of June. Take care of yourself. Thank you so much for being part of my channel, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Without further ado, let's move on to each sign. Hello, beautiful Scorpios. These are going to be your messages for the month of June or thereabouts. And I do want to say that these messages seem to cover more than a month at a time, which makes sense because energy is fluid. So this will transpire over next few weeks or the next few months for you. So check periodically. And some of you may have already been going through this energy, or energetically, you are already feeling the way I'm going to show you how you apparently feel. So just FYI, if it doesn't make sense to you at the beginning of June, chances are at the end of June, it might make sense to you, or it might make sense to you by November. So with that said, sorry, somebody's talking to me. Oh, okay. I just heard them say to me, turn your volume lower. And I'm going, why would I turn my volume lower? They're not going to hear me. It's like your music. So this is kind of funny. For those of you who are first to my channel, I am not a tarot reader. I am an intuitive. I'm a medium. You can call it that way. So I get talked to a lot. So anyway, sometimes it shows up on a video because, I don't know, it's just how I interact with spirit. Anyway, the moment I connected with your energy and asked about June for you, the word of identity came up. And what this is showing me is that over the next few weeks and or few months, you will be experiencing situations that will help you reshape your identity. What do I mean by that? Identity is how you define yourself, and we define ourselves in various different ways. But as an example, and to make it a drastic one, because of course they work, if part of your identity is I am not good enough, which is very common in most people to some degree, if that is part of your identity, then you will effectively be creating that in your life. So, and this is just an example, just to kind of give an example of what I'm talking about. Reshaping your identity means that having the belief of I'm not enough and shifting it to something that is let's say, of an opposite nature, feeling good about yourself, let's say, and that being your new identity. And from that standpoint, you are much more likely to attract situations that are more pleasing to you than not. And although I always say nothing is written in stone, one thing is for certain. We are born, that's a fact, and we're going to die. That's a fact. And there is no way around that. One day, you and I won't be here. But there is a pretty good room for movement where you get to make choices. There are some things that are preordained. For example, the family you are born into. Have you attracted your family? Well, no, not really. You chose to be born into a certain situation in order to help you perceive things from a different perspective. That in turn forms your belief system, which is also part your identity. And then you move on in your life. And the moment you begin to, what's the word I want to use, please? Understand how vibration works. And the moment you begin to understand that your emotions are essentially vibration, and when you begin to kind of sort of see that the whole idea of law of attraction, although sometimes it's not expressed by others in a certain way, we really are creating our own reality. And when that happens, we begin to pay attention. So why is this being shown? Why am I being flagged in terms of this for you for the month of June? Because apparently many of you are willingly choosing to close a certain door behind you. And as a result of closing that door, and that's also a metaphor, your sense of identity will shift. And closing the door symbolizes to me few things. You are closing the proverbial door on your old conditioning, which means, well, we'll discuss what that may mean. You are leaving something or someone behind. You are moving a location. You are essentially detaching yourself from something that no longer is true to you. And our identity can shift and change depending, well, what we perceive. So it feels like many of you have been doing a lot of work, and as a result of that, you're about to release yourself from your own prison. So the way you identify yourself going forward over the next few months, you will begin to shift and change your thinking in terms of who you are, and you will begin to pay attention to how you affirm yourself. So we either affirm who we are, which could be in a negative way, or we affirm who we choose to be. And what's the difference? I'll explain in a second. The number 11 was also shown to me. And when I felt that number come through, I understood that as a result of having to make a choice or decision, many of you will be making a bigger choice or decision over the next few months. By making a choice or decision, you create a sense of stability in your life. And anything that has been unjust, anything that has been lopsided, anything that has been out of balance, and that could mean, you know, you've been fighting somebody in court, and it's been a mess, and now you're making a certain choice or decision, and as a result of that, you're leaving that behind. So you're not necessarily leaving the mess behind, but you're leaving your connection to that mess, so to speak. That's going to be for very few of you. I'm hoping not one of you is going through any kind of legal things that are not pleasant. So you get the picture. The beautiful thing is that when I asked for a card to represent your probable future, guess what showed up? I love when this happens. Justice. So not only did I see this in my meditation, and by the way, balance is your medication. Working towards balance, and we'll talk about what that means, emotionally speaking for sure, and mentally, is like medication. Oh, interesting they're talking about that. So I'm not going to go further into that because I could see kind of veering off to a certain direction, but I just want to keep this very general. Point is, there is a confirmation here with the card being shown that when it comes to the probable future or the near future for many of you, balance and restoration is what's to come. Now, it's not going to magically fall out of the sky. It may seem that way, but it is the result of your hard work. So for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, the message is not for you. Or perhaps this is nudging you to say, hey, you might want to look how you identify yourself, because the way you identify yourself is the way you talk to yourself, and that is your representation of the world, and the universe matches that, more or less. And then you begin to look at yourself. And I don't mean scrutinize. I mean to look at yourself through observation. And you begin to perhaps observe that some of the things that you do on a regular basis really does not or don't serve you. Then why would you do them if they don't serve you, right? Well, it's a two-part question. Number one, if it didn't serve you, you wouldn't do it. So there's a deep psychological subconscious component of how it serves you. But the other one is, I just lost the train of thought, completely lost the train of thought. Let me just come back to that. Sometimes it cuts off like a movie. Oh my God, I completely lost the train of thought. Anyway, I'm going to move on. No, I don't want to let it go. This is so weird. We're talking about identity. So this is what happens when I channel sometimes. It kind of bypasses my logic, and then it's almost like I lose the connection, and it's like I fall flat and I literally go blank. Like it's gone. I don't know what I said, and I don't know what I'm supposed to say. So let's just go with this. Anything that has been lopsided or unbalanced, you will have the opportunity in the next few weeks and few months to bring it up to balance. Okay? Now, the other thing I heard was release from a confinement. I understood confinement to be conditioning. And for many of you, this is about feeling small. Whether you know that on a conscious level or it's deeply rooted in your subconscious, that I don't know. But chances are many of you will understand what this means. Essentially what it means is, if you think of yourself as small, you will keep yourself small, which means you will block yourself from putting yourself out there for opportunities. You will not allow yourself to be perceived as more because you don't believe in yourself. In other words, your identity of you comes from, well, a scared place, a place of not being enough. So the release from confinement, because that's your own prison, that's the battle, is again very symbolic of releasing or shifting your identity. And then I'm going to move on to the cards. I'm not going to go one by one because I feel like I'm just flowing through channeling, basically. I asked for an animal energy for you to embody in the month of June or the next few months. Gazelle showed up. So I will not go with a description as per book. I will go through my intuition, and I feel some of those will crisscross. So first and foremost, when I look at this beautiful animal, it represents to me vulnerability. And the sun behind her is taking me to, for those of you who are familiar with chakra centers, chakra number 3 and chakra number 2. Or is it, actually, I want to say 1, 2, and 3. And they're all connected. What do I mean by this? Is that a lot of this imagery, this gazelle represents, what's the word I want to use, please? Survival. Okay? Physical survival. Survival in general. And the message of what energy you might want to embody is, though the gazelle can run very fast from whatever is chasing it, they're really good at that. They're very vulnerable, yes. They're very sensitive, but they don't spend all their day always looking behind their back, trying to see if something is going to go eat them. In other words, the essence I'm getting here is basically choose to feel more relaxed. Now, if we are having issues with identity, like not feeling small, then chances are you will not be very relaxed within yourself, because you're always going to be watching for what's around you for various reasons. To keep you safe, to belong, there's a gazillion reasons. The moral of the story is paying attention to your survival instincts and noticing if some of those survival instincts haven't gone too far. What do I mean by that? We all need survival instincts, well, for one basic reason: to keep us living or to survive. But we, particularly when we come from a place of pain, take survival to a whole different level. An example of such would be having been hurt as a young person, which, if you're human, you've been hurt. That's just part of what it is. And then using that pain almost as a shield to hide behind. Therefore, what's the extreme of that? Trying to protect yourself or survive from getting hurt, you close yourself off to the world. In what way? By not being open to certain opportunities, by not being open to certain ideas, by not being open to receiving, by not being open to be pampered, various ways that we nurture ourselves and provide for ourselves. So this gazelle here to me represents conditioning that is rooted in sheer survival, which means somewhere there inside of you, you're not feeling safe. And it's coming up to my throat, which means it is affecting your communication. So if you are not feeling safe inside, for example, and how would you know that? By close examination and by being brutally honest with yourself. Observing yourself, not with judgment, but from the point of view of observation. So, God, I keep, my movies keep being chopped. My connection's really weird. By protecting yourself that way, by being scared, you are less likely to be open to vulnerable situations. You're less likely to feel safe, to open up to love. You're less likely to take on a new job that is you know, way up than what you're used to, because, well, you need to survive. So you gotta protect yourself, which means you gotta cling to what you know. I hope that's making sense. So the moral of the story again is, over the next few months, watch your thoughts, particularly the fearful ones. Notice when they come from, and notice if the root of the challenge for you is you don't feel safe inside. Okay? There is obviously myriad ways of how to approach that, which goes beyond the scope of this video. But it does require our awareness, because without awareness, well, without awareness, it's not great. If we have no awareness, then we are very limited. So what is it that you're leaving behind? The Seven of Swords to me symbolizes mental challenge. I feel many of you have been mentally challenged, and I don't mean mentally ill, but your thought process or your head has been on overdrive. Generally, what I'm referring to is on overdrive regarding things that are scary, fearful, overdrive that gives us an anxiety. So if you have had few months, a few years, or a few decades for that matter, of being in your head a lot and having constant fears, perhaps because you're not feeling safe, then very shortly, many of you, looks like, will be leaving that conditioning behind. The Ten of Swords to me represents an end of a cycle. And boy, do I like that. We all love that, right? So I'm very mindful that I keep on saying end of a cycle pretty much all the time. But it sounds like whoever is listening is understanding what's being said. So we are all collectively going through a cycle, right? And, you know, we're now moving into different frequencies. So you can say that's an end of a cycle. Point is, you are at the end of a road, so to speak, and the end of the road represents a learned lesson. And for you, from what I'm seeing, it has to do with a lesson around safety. I don't like saying the word lesson, but that's how most people understand it, because we're not here to learn because we're dumb. We're here to have an experience, one that is felt. So that's the difference. So I like to see that. That's fantastic. The King of Cups shows up on reverse, and what this is saying to me is that you have been feeling emotionally not solid. And why is it showing up in a position of now? Because I feel this is representing how you have been feeling for quite a while, but you are eventually, and pretty shortly for many of you, moving on away from that, from being balanced. So essentially you're moving to being this, which is, don't let the gender sway you. It just represents an aspect of you. So you may not have felt emotionally in control. You may not have felt in control. You may felt other people have control over you. There is emotional disturbance, so to speak, that maybe is rooted perhaps on the fear of survival, that is eventually going to, if not leave you entirely, because there's always propensities to thoughts, through sheer effort and diligence and awareness, you will leave that pattern behind to a great extent. And the reason for that is because it's divine timing. It's time to shed the old skin, as I often talk about, and it's time to rewrite your story. Our stories are based on history. We repeat these patterns, but we do that because mostly we're not aware that's what we're doing, and we don't even know that we have another choice. But the moment you begin to be aware that you have another choice, i.e. there is another way of looking at things, and that shift of perspective opens up a new way of seeing things, then that is what I consider growth. There is a term called growing pains, and it's a term for a reason. Growth can feel uncomfortable. When kids grow, they have growing pains. Growth can be uncomfortable. Can you prevent growth? No. What you can do, you can, well, resist it. Although if we're talking about a child growing, it's pretty hard to resist that. Unless you kept somebody under the table. That's a joke. I'm supposed to be funny. I think you guys get the picture. Is there anything else I want to share? So I already talked about the divine timing. This is your time. Leap of faith is a message to me that represents the choice or decision that I mentioned at the very beginning that many of you will consider or will take or will make. And it feels like it's coming up for some of you over the next 3 months. This could be anything from moving in together, moving away from something, changing a new job, taking a risk on a new career, taking a risk at an opportunity, taking a risk at new love, relationship, whatever it is. It's wanting to do something, but having fears that it's not going to work out, but trusting and knowing deeply that you need to do this. Leap of faith pretty much summarizes that. Okay, so many of you will be making some sort of a choice or decision. And I want to say for good reasons. This is not anything bad. It is for good reasons. Okay, and I think that's all I want to leave with you. No, one more thing. Some of you are either to do drumming lessons or to do drumming or to take drumming lessons. So if this message lands on you and you hear the word drumming and you perk up, then that's a message that's for you, okay? And that's all I have. I hope this was helpful. These flowed differently than last time. So like you, everything is changing, including the way I deliver messages. If you do not, if this does not make sense to you at the beginning of June, do not worry about it. Listen to it down the road. Majority of you who write to me say that most of this makes sense at the end of a month or a little bit later. And remember, this will this will transpire over a few weeks, a few months. So some of you have already gone through it or are going to go through it already. And some of you will begin to move into that energy. All right. For private sessions with me, which I would be honored, that information is down below. You guys are smart. You know how to find me. And aside from that, I hope you have a wonderful month of June, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye.